What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. This time we're going to be taking a look at New York, New York, directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Robert De Niro and Liza Minnelli. New York, New York is Martin Scorsese's homage slash tribute to the old movie musicals of yesteryear. Okay, so I'm going to try and make this review short and sweet. I don't really have a whole lot to say about New York, New York. So yeah, let's deep dive right into it. Overall, I thought this movie was good. It's okay. This is a radical departure from Martin Scorsese's other works. Now, prior to making New York, New York, his big mainstream movies were Mean Streets and Taxi Driver. These dark, gritty, realistic type cycle thriller movies. Then he has a movie like New York, New York, which is much more lighter in tone. And I like seeing directors go outside their comfort zone, but and it's not always going to be a hit. You're going to get a lot of misses. And New York to me is it's twofold. It's good, but it's also got some problems that I will address momentarily. But let me get to the good. The good. Robert De Niro as the lead, who plays a saxophonist named Jimmy Doyle. He's great. De Niro, he could be in a shitty movie, but he's going to be good most of the time. In this movie, he's actually really, really good, and he actually learned to play the saxophone in preparation for this movie. And the man can actually play. He can play really, really well. But I like the character of Jimmy. I like De Niro's portrayal. The first half hour of this movie, where he's trying to court, Liza Minnelli's character, Francine, it's actually really, really funny stuff. Particularly when he's like doing the whole courtship, it's actually really funny. The first half of this movie has got some really good comedy in it. Like I said, it's a very light-hearted movie. Doesn't have a dark storyline, doesn't have dark moments. It's light-hearted in tone, and it has really well integrated comedy, and a lot of that comes from Robert De Niro, who I never thought got enough credit for his comedic timing, because the man is really, really funny, and I really enjoy this movie too. He's really funny in this, and as the movie progresses, we see the other side of the Jimmy character. We see that he's not a bad guy, but he has a hostile temper. The man's very, very has a really bad temperament. He gets in arguments with people. There's this one scene where he gets into a fight with Francine, and it almost comes to blows. So De Niro, his role was great. Liza Minnelli as Francine, she wasn't horrible. She wasn't fantastic. She ain't gonna blow your socks off in the acting department. In the singing department, I thought Liza was great. I thought she carried her notes well. She has a good singing voice. Of course, that goes with her being the daughter of Judy Garland and already having a musical career, but that's neither here nor there. But as an actress, she's solid. She's okay. Her and De Niro have good chemistry. I buy them as a couple. I buy the instant attraction and romance that develops throughout this film. It's good stuff. It works for me. And the supporting cast that are peppered throughout the movie, they're fine as well. So yeah, casting and acting, that stuff is solid. Production side of this movie, shot really well, of course. I like how Scorsese shot this like a musical. When you watch a musical, you're gonna get these elaborate fake sets, and that's what Scorsese did for this movie. He built these elaborate sets, and it looked like, and it looks like that too. He really tried to do a tribute to those old movies like The Wizard of Oz and stuff like that. And again, I thought he captured that lens really, really well. I like the whole 1945 aesthetic. Like I said, I like the sets and the costume designs. They all look great. They look immaculate. Scorsese's direction is picture perfect, as it always is. Though this movie to me, has a lot of pacing issues, and a lot of the songs go on too long, and it kind of bogs the movie down, and it makes it a slug to get through in a lot of certain scenes, because you start to lose interest with a lot of the musicals. Not all, but some. Well, I think the last half of the movie is where the movie just becomes one big musical, and it's okay. It's well choreographed and everything like that. But I think at that point you want to speed up the process a little bit and get this thing over and done with. But this whole movie builds up to the big number, which is New York, New York. The famous song New York, New York, which we all know, which was covered by Frank Sinatra and became famous through him, but it originated in this movie and is sung by Liza Minnelli. And when she belts it out at the end, it's great. That probably is, out of all the songs in this movie, her rendition of New York, New York is the show stealer, pretty much. It deserves all the praise it got when it first came out. It's the most instantly most recognizable scene of the whole movie. It's the most memorable scene of the whole movie. It's just New York, New York, and just how ingrained in culture, pop culture, that song eventually would become. What, over 40 years later. So yeah, that's all with that. We get on to some negatives now. Now, I already mentioned that this movie suffers from a lot of pacing issues. It also suffers from it's a flimsy story. I'm sorry. I know musicals don't really have elaborate stories, but the story itself is not all that engaging. It's kind of bare bones by the number. Man meets woman, man falls in love with woman, man and woman have their issues, up and downs. They get along, they don't get along, and then eventually they drift away. They meet again at the end, and it's left to the interpretation as to whether or not they get back together again. But at the end of this movie, it's kind of clear they're not going to get back together again. And that's that. But both man and woman, they find success in their fields. Francine becomes a big time actress. Jimmy ends up becoming a nightclub owner, which is great for him. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. There's a lot more to say with New York, New York, but those are just my overall general thoughts on the film. Again, I think it's pretty good. I'm not really big into musicals, and like I said, I do got my issues with it here and there, but it overall did not enjoy my experience with it. I liked it a lot, so I'm gonna give it a solid 7 out of 10. You can watch it once and you ain't gonna be ashamed about it. It's not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. You do get a good performance by Robert De Niro. Liza Minnelli carries her own. Some of the musical numbers are pretty good, with the New York, New York number being the best out of the whole movie. You're gonna get elaborate looking sets that look fantastic. You're gonna get great direction. But if you're going into this thing looking for that typical Scorsese feel in terms of like what he can do, you're not really going to get that. You're going to get a throwback to the old school musicals of the 1940s, and I can appreciate something like that. Oh yeah. Okay, so yeah. Final grade, 7 out of 10. Those are my thoughts on New York, New York. If you've seen this movie, let me know in the comment sections down below. Do you like it? Do you hate it? I would like to know. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.